Excellent. So we now have a number of things done, like we've put all the images we wanted to represent in the timeline from 1 to 12. You've seen that preparing the script before, we could simply copy and paste the text, and probably the one thing we need to do before going forward is check if the order is good, and we can see that it is. I've discovered a small trick here as well, is when you have two sentences, the sentence is a little bit bigger. So for instance, that was the sentence we could have on screen here. Better prices and train thousands of entrepreneurs at the same time. It's a little bit too long. So in fact, you can probably increase the size of the box, for instance. That's a way of doing things. But you can also decide to make them appear at two different moments in time, like subtitles on a video, for instance. So if I click plus here, I have a new space where I can put my text and they will appear at two different moments, which is very handy in that case. So I just need two, which means if I play this particular slide, you will see the first one appears and then the second one. So that's very good if we want to make some adjustments because our sentences are too long. You remember I said 10, 12 words per sentence is great. When we have too long a sentence, we can split it in various ways. So let's have a look at our video for the moment. Okay, so we have already something. What we see, and for me it's pretty obvious, first we need to be sure that all the text appears, is that the title on top of the image is not very readable. So we have two ways of seeing that. Whether we will darken the image behind it, or we will find another way of showing the text. Usually you do not want to use colors or a lot of different things on screen because it's disturbing. So we want to make it as simple as possible to see, to read. And for that, we will start by certainly adding some sort of shadow on top of the image. So if I click on the image, what I have is a number of things I can do. I can change the media size. I can add filters, like for Instagram or any picture application, you can add filters of colors. I can change the volume of the song. You can see I can put also some animations. We will see that later. And for the moment, I will simply add a filter. So the software, like most of them, propose me a number of filters, like black and white, for instance. Or if you look at the different pictures here on screen, you see lots of different variations. Once again, the simpler it is, the better. So I'm gonna simply darken the text in that case, darken the image, sorry, and I will apply to all. So I'm applying to all scenes, and what I have now is certainly something I can read much better. Let's have a look. You see, it's much more readable. In fact, the image is a context for the rest, so I don't need it to be extremely powerful. It is there, but it doesn't have to be the centerpiece since the text is the centerpiece. A second thing I would like to change is the ratio, the size of this video. So square videos are great for Facebook in general because most of the things we see are square on Facebook. But since my video could be used in different ways and not only on Facebook, I'm gonna change that. So by clicking on aspect ratio here, I can change that to landscape. 16:9 is the size of your screen. So that's a ratio. It means it's 16 times larger and 9 times higher than 1. So here you see immediately by changing the landscape mode or square or portrait means it's like a phone, Instagram ad, you see that and Facebook cover is now this new functionality of Facebook to put a video in the cover. So what we see is that landscape works much better for my text. Just there, I already see a massive improvement in terms of readability. Let's have a look at the different scenes. you see it is much better. What is another thing I could do? Well, in my case, I prefer when the text is aligned on the left. The reason why I prefer to have everything aligned on the left, it's because it's more readable, especially if we have more text. When it is centrally aligned, that's more complex to read. So let's have a look. I'm clicking on the text. Now I have new options and I'm going to take left alignment, applying to all as well, apply to all scenes. So let's have a look. Now I have a much more readable text, especially when I have plenty of text on my screen. Let's have a look where. Here, for instance, it's much more readable. It's brilliant, easier to read, easier to understand. Another thing I would like to do is propose another way of putting the text. Instead of putting it centrally on top of my image, I would like to move it to the side. In fact, it will be probably better and easier to read for someone if that text appears on the left side. And eventually, if I have a very important piece of text, I could change its position so that people see it. We usually read from top left to bottom right, in the sense where now I put my text on the bottom left. It is to help people see the image and then read the text. And I'm gonna also make a little trick. If I'm clicking on that, I can change the typography. You remember we have plenty of typography available in this particular software. I think this one works. It's a good choice already. We could certainly find even better choices if we were spending time on that. Probably this one could work as well. No, it doesn't work. It's all about testing a little bit what is more readable on screen. Futura is a font I tend to use very much in titles, but for text it's more complex to read. Helvetica is one of my favorites of all time. So let's have a look at Helvetica and keep that one. So I'm gonna put Helvetica and I'm gonna apply to all scenes again. So now I have my text appearing, but it's not well defined enough. So one small trick we could add, I'm gonna apply my small or medium size yet. Apply, I will keep the small size, it's good enough. Is to add a background behind the text. So only behind the text. So how can I do that? Well, I still have my options of text selected and I see that here I have caption color, which is probably simply the color of the text itself. You've seen I click on see more. See more for Rocketium, it opens a great number of additional options if I think I need them. I'm gonna probably add the line spacing. You will see why later. If I can do that, that's amazing. So yes, I click line spacing. It tells me what I can do. It tells me it's free. So we understand a little bit the way Rocketium earns money is to give you more options, but you have to pay for them. So I'm gonna add that to the account. Coming back to my composition. Let's have a look. I'm gonna refresh that. In fact, if you look at the save button here, I'm clicking, it's saving continuously. So that's good because my composition is always the latest. It saves around every 30 seconds if I've seen it correctly. So now if I'm clicking there, I should have access to this new thing called line spacing. And what I want to do with line spacing is play on the space in between two lines. So I want a pretty close line spacing. I like that. And as I said, I wanted to make a background behind my caption. So if I click on the color here, what I can see, I can change the text color. So that wouldn't work very well, but I think white works well already. I can highlight the text as well. Let's have a look at what it does. So does it highlight everything? I'm not too sure. Well, it doesn't seem to do anything if I don't select one piece of text, and we will see afterwards how I can do that. What I want is to add a text background. So in that case, I will go for black background. You see how the black came in between below the text, and I don't want a shadow. It's not necessary if I have a black background. So I'm gonna apply this to all scenes. My black background, I will apply it to all scenes as well. Okay, let's have a look again, apply to all. So now all my text look the same. And we will see how I can eventually use the line spacing to make it even more design. Perfect. You see that 2 times space between lines offers me this sort of very nice looking lines behind my text. So I still see a little bit of the image through, and I have something very, very clean. Let's have a look at my text right now. Okay, very good. So it works. Now I would like to probably try something else. Instead of having white text on black background, I'm gonna invert that and see how that looks. So I'm gonna have a white background and I'm gonna have a black text on top of it. So usually this is lighter in terms of composition. It gives a little bit more good feeling, I would say, to my text. So I changed that. Let's have a look. Excellent. So what we see is that the options I selected didn't apply to everywhere. So I'm going to click again. Caption, text background white, text black, apply to all scenes. Normally it should work. Let's just go from one scene to the other. It seems a little bit reluctant to take into consideration my changes. So I'm going to do it again. I probably need to do that twice. So apply to all here, apply to all scenes. Text in black, apply to all scenes. Let's have a look. Doesn't want to take it, huh? It's probably something related to these particular options. Let's have a look again. I really want it. And I will double check. Okay, finally it took it. Great. Well, the third thing I could do is probably change the position of text on every single slide. So what I'm doing here is click the box of text and move it again thanks to the middle little purple indicator here. You have a grid to guide you. So for instance, if I was to use the first element of the grid, you can also use your keyboard to move it more precisely one by one. So let's have a look. If I'm moving it, the keyboard is not the best tool for that, but you see that is much better. That is very much aligned. So I could do that for each of them using the grid below, which helps me guide my title. As I said, I'm discovering this tool at the same time than you do. And that's the beauty of making this video. We know exactly what we could do. Here I have 2 pieces of text, if you remember the third one. Could we help get the better prices? And I have a second piece of text, and here below in the captions I can select the first one and the second one. So the first one and the second one should be aligned somehow. So since I'm aligning everything to the left, the second line of the grid, I'm gonna do the same thing. I'll try if it works on the top of the video and then on the bottom. Let's have a look. Yeah, I think it works. That's okay.